I'm delighted to be joined today by Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Sahab, who is one of the greatest names to conjure with in the name of in the world of Indian classical music. And welcome to Parliament, my dear Khan Sahab. This is, I think, the 40th anniversary of our meeting in Singapore, as I remember.
Yes.
But you were already then in your second decade as a performer. In fact, I was just amazed because, when I realized how eminent you already were then, how you have sustained over so many years this extraordinary record of performance and of consistent quality. Really hats off to you. But I wanted to ask you if I can take you back to those days and before that. I read somewhere that your first recital was when you were 6 years old.
Yes.
Your first public performance was when you were 12 years old. What do you remember about those days of being a child prodigy?
Actually, I was not a child prodigy. I mean, I had to struggle a lot. And the people of India, I'm grateful to every region of India. They encouraged me, they nurtured me, and they helped me to be whatever I am today. Gwalior is my birthplace, and Mia Tansen, he was also born in Gwalior.
Mm-hmm.
So we are the humble representative of Mia Tansen, Swami Haridas ji, his guru. And while receiving Tansen Award in Gwalior, Mr. Digvijay Singh was the chief minister at that time. He was there. And after that ceremony and my performance, I was about to sit in my car. So a group of old, senior people came up to me. And so I came out from the car. I said, thank you very much. We still remember your performance when you were 6 years old. So that's why I believed that, because generally, if you are born in a family of musicians, so it's a done thing that they push the child on the stage as a part of education, how to face the audience, how to behave on the stage. So that was my learning process, and so after that incident, I have written in my biography that I played at the age of 6.
That's right. And the thing is, you didn't have any resistance to that. You didn't say, no, I'm cricket khelne ja raha hu, or rather play football or whatever. I mean, you really wanted to be a sarod player from that point?
Today, we are surrounded by so many tabla here, as you can see. So this is the way they planned. But tabla is my first love, actually. As a child, I was drawn towards tabla so much that my father got so worried that tabla was hidden for a few months.
He was afraid you'd become a tabalchi and not follow him.
But tabla is very important for every musician to understand the rhythm, the lay. So because of tabla, I encouraged many young tabla players also. And they were unknown, but the talented people. So tabla is almost like every human being is born with sound and rhythm.
Right.
Some realize and some don't realize.
Some are said to be tone deaf, really, Khan Sahab. But tell me, I was told that when you were born, you had a different name. Masoom Ali Khan. Is that true? How did that become Amjad?
One spiritual man, Sadhu Baba, he used to come to my father with saffron clothes and beard. And he was fond of music. He himself used to sing. And one day when he came, so my father introduced me to him. And he looked at me, what do you do? I said, I'm learning, I'm playing. What's your name? So I played whatever I was learning at that time. So what's your name? So what you said, I said, this is my name. He said, no, from today you are Amjad. So he gave that name.
And so this was before your first performance?
Yes, yes.
So you always performed under the name?
Yes,
Amjad Ali Khan.
That is true. And it was like a blessings of that Sadhu Baba. And he used to sing Madina na dekha to kuch bhi na dekha. He used to become emotional, cry. And you see, because music in our country we say Swar hi Ishwar hai. And there are two worlds, world of sound and world of language. So naturally people are more busy with the language. So I could not understand language, so I had an option to choose. So thank God I live in the world of sound, because through sound I cannot manipulate. Da re na re na re re na. So if I'm out of tune, you will come to know. You see, it is so transparent, the sound. But language, you know, the whole world is ruling through language. And I wish I could understand that.
You are in a building next to our parliament where sounds of different kinds are being heard.
We are proud of your language, the way you speak. You are a great orator.
But Sansad, tell me, you're just doing that reminded me that as a young person, you were always very fond of singing.
Yes.
Did you have a choice between being a singer and playing an instrument, or was the Sarod your destiny all along?
You see, my father was a singer. He has a beautiful voice. Rukmani Arundale, the legendary dancer, her brother was in Gwalior and learning vocal music from my father. And even Pandit Bhimsen Joshi, when he was struggling and looking for gurus, he was in Gwalior and learning for 2 years from my father. So he had a very appealing voice. And Bhimsen Joshi ji mentioned all this in his documentary film. Gulzar Sahab has made a documentary on Bhimsen ji, and another on me also. He made a documentary. So my father believed that instrumentalists should be a singer also. And my father was the first instrumentalist who sang on the stage while playing Thumri. He used to sing that. And and then he made me realize the importance of vocal music. He used to sing and I used to follow. Da 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 da. He will sing. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. ऊंचा हो गया सूर्य. So I used to play on the sarod then. So sarod was a very limited instrument, you know, historically, because it was modified from rabab.
In fact, it's one of your ancestors who made the modifications.
Yes,
I understood it. I think there was a horse trading Bangash who came from Afghanistan to Rewa in Madhya Pradesh.
They were in Rewa. Then Maharaja Sindhia, they were court musician Maharaja Sindhia, you know, Gwalior.
And he used to like playing the rabab, but he thought it could be improved to make it more capable of playing Indian.
You know, there is a reason of invention. That rabab was not so expressive. So sarod became more expressive. Like sitar. The ancient instrument in our country is veena. So veena is not so expressive, whether South Indian veena or North Indian veena, but sitar became more expressive. And both are Persian words. Sitar means instrument of three. Sahtar, 3-string instrument. Like we have iktara, ek hi string hai wo. Sarod is a Persian word which means music. Sarud, Mausiqi, Nagma, Tarannum. So it's very interesting that most of our instruments begin with sa. Sarod, sitar, sarangi, santur, maybe other instruments also. So our history is so rich, and we are so proud of our history of India. I mean, how in these 200 years of Britishers ruling our country, how our music survived.
Right.
How our culture survived.
And there certainly the Maharajas did play a part in giving the patronage required.
That's true.
But let me take you, your father was the 5th generation, right, in your family. So the music had survived a couple of 100 years before him.
Yes.
He was the first to carry the title Ustad, or were there other Ustads in the family?
There were many Ustads.
There were many Ustads.
But Maharaja Gwalior gave him the title of Aftab-e Sarod.
Aftab-e Sarod.
Aftab-e Sarod. Ustad Fayaz Khan Sahab was called Aftab-e Mausiqi. So, you know, the Raja, Maharaja, they used to give titles.
Right.
And Akbar patronized Mian Tansen, he was the court musician.
Of course.
So all over the world, I think even the British queen and kings, they also had they patronize musicians in the history.
No, that's, I mean, culture and art always need patronage.
Yes,
and the
yes.
big worry under the times of the British was they had no interest in supporting our arts, our culture, our handicrafts, our music, our dance. And so it was kept alive either by the Maharajas or by the temples, the religious places, and that was essentially the only option.
Yes,
So you therefore sunk your roots in Gwalior, your entire family, and you have been now the 6th generation, and the 7th generation has also begun to perform very effectively and acquired a reputation.
7th is Aman and Ayan.
Amayan and Ayan, exactly. So, but before we get to them, I've still a lot to ask about yourself. You then, as a young person, already started getting recognition and renown. I think much more than your father, or perhaps unlike your father, you also began traveling much more with your music. Tell me about that.
My father was afraid of flying.
Ah.
So when my time, when I got the offer in 1963, a group of dancers and musicians were going to New York or America on the invitation of Asia Society.
Uh-huh.
So
How old were you then?
In 1963, must be
28. Oh, so 18.
18,
You were a
yes.
teenager. Yes, absolutely.
That was my first
Right.
foreign tour, and my father was not allowing me to go. Then, they were in the delegation, Srimati Naina Devi, Pandit Birju Maharaj. So they all appealed to my father that please allow him to go. With great persuasion, I was given the permission. And for 2 months, we were traveling all over America and performing. Birju Maharaj used to play tabla with me, and I used to play with his dance also. So that was a great, and that was the time in 1963, people were realizing Indian classical music. And you have just very kindly given so much compliments to my gharana and family. But you see, I'm very fortunate that I was born in the family of musicians. But I salute to those musicians. Their father was not a musician, like Pandit Ravi Shankar. His father was not a musician. Ustad Alauddin Khan Sahab, Ustad Allah Rakha Khan Sahab, Pandit Bhimsen Joshi, Pandit Kumar Gandharv, they made such a difference, what a contribution, and their parents were not musicians. So I salute to them, I give my respect to them, because it's an advantage if you are born in a family of musicians. But every person who is born in the family of musicians, they don't achieve everything what they want.
Now, there's a lot more to ask you about that, but we need to take a break. We'll be back just after the break to find out more about the great music and the wonderful mind of Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Sahab. Welcome back after the short break, and we're with Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Sahab discussing his life, career and music. And I just want to take you back, since you mentioned you were fortunate to be born in a particular family. Yes. There was a very interesting development in your life as a young man when you fell in love with somebody from a very different family, Subbalakshmi Borua.
Yes.
Tell us about that. And in the India of those days, was there ever an issue about the fact that you were from two different religious backgrounds?
There will be issue always. There was a problem. Even today, it's not easy. But at my time, I saw Subbalakshmi performing in Calcutta.
She's a Bharatnatyam
dancer, disciple of Rukmani Arundel, Kalakshetra. And I was also performing, and many other great musicians were there, Kala Mandir. So while looking at her performance, I felt that maybe God has sent her for me. I mean, that kind of feeling. And I was mentally disturbed at that time. I was performing, I was traveling. But I wanted to settle down. I mean, the way I had the imagination of family life. So after the concert, then I met her, and I met her, family members also. Her uncle was Mr. P.C. Barua, who was Member of Parliament in Congress. And her father, my father-in-law, Mr. Parsuram Barua, was the first actor of Asmi's film called Joy Moti.
Oh, this I didn't know. This is an interesting cultural detail.
So, naturally they must have been. Then I went to Guwahati, there was a festival, and I expressed my feelings to her brothers, and within short time they decided, and we got married in Calcutta. So I'm very fortunate that I received the love and blessings of all the senior people. And
acceptance on both sides.
Yes, because they were a cultured family. They were cultured family, and sometime in Delhi we were performing. She danced. I was also performing to raise funds for some blind relief fund for so many charitable organizations. I was connected. I performed. So
she continued dancing only for a short while after.
Short while.
Why was it that she had to stop her career?
Because she realized herself, I mean, that as my father said, that you can't do everything in one lifetime. My father was not interested that I should go to school, because he believed that if you want to learn music, only think of music. You can't be PhD and also play Sarod. So that was his belief. But I think now there are many PhD, they are great musicians also, and they are doing very well. So similarly, my wife decided herself that she can't manage, traveling and be at home. So it will be nice if you ask this question from her.
From her, I know. Raju ji, as she's known, I do know that she was a formidable partner of yours in organizational matters, handling your tours, your travels. Very often on practical matters, she's the one who called and got things done. I find it very interesting that your father was this eminent musician, nationally, internationally known. He was also your guru. How did that affect the father-son relationship? Did you feel as a son that he was your father, or did you feel as a shagird that he was your ustad, your guru?
My father lived in a different world. I mean, he was very fakir-like, saint-like, and he was ignorant about lots of things. He was not worried what his neighbor has or what should he have, because I remember he did not have a radio in the house because he felt that the children will listen to filmy music.
You wanted to hear only pure
with
classical.
With the persuasion of his disciples and all of us that please appeal to my father that we need a radio. So then I remember the radio, 150 rupees ka Murphy radio.
Ah, yes.
My sisters were very keen to listen to Radio Ceylon, and we were all, you see, every Indian grew up listening to film songs. And we have a filmy culture also in our country. So my father was very worried. One track mind, namaz padhna or music ki baat karna. A group, while he was teaching me, some people came and he started singing for them. 1 घंटा हो गया तो हमने पिताजी के कान में क्या बन गया, हुजूर इन लोगों से पूछ लीजिए किस लिए आए हैं ये. तो हाँ बेटा माफ़ करना, क्या हुआ? कहते हुजूर हम कार्ड देने आए हैं, बेटी की शादी है. Such a simple man, such a simple person. He thought everybody comes to listen to his music. And there is an interesting story which our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, also narrated this in one of his speech for Speak Make, that when my father received Padma Bhushan in 1960, and we were living in a rented place, we didn't have car, but my father took me along to Rashtrapati Bhavan. That was the first time I saw closely Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Dr. Radhakrishnan, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad. So after this investiture ceremony, it's a ritual to have that tea party in Mughal Garden. So Pandit Nehru comes up to my father. Khan Sahab, koi takleef to nahi hai, aap theek hain. He looked at me. So because of his sense of humor, कहले Khan Sahab, बच्चे से कोई गुरु मंत्र तो नहीं छुपा रहे आप? Nehru से. अब्बा ने कहा नहीं, I'm trying to give him everything. Then Rajendra Prasad comes up. This is the story. Khan Sahab, कोई तकलीफ तो नहीं है. On such occasions, a musician who is living in a rented place, doesn't have car, generally he will say, मुझे घर दिला दीजिए, मुझे गाड़ी दिला दीजिए. नहीं, वो सब नहीं. राजेंद्र प्रसाद जी को कह रहे हैं कि राग दरबारी खतरे में है, आप इसकी पे रोटी को बचाइए.
Ah,
I was feeling embarrassed as a young boy. मैंने कहा अब्बा हमारे क्या कह रहा है ये, उनको क्या पता बेचारे को दरबारी क्या है. खैर खासा मैं समझा नहीं. Miyan Tansen created this rag. People are taking liberty. The purity will vanish from this country. You are the president, it's your duty. वो घबरा गए बेचारे. कह रहे नहीं खान साहब. He was hoping as if he will pass a resolution in the parliament next day.
protect Rag Darbari. How has it been different with you and your sons, with Ayan and Aman? Were you very conscious of the need to be a different kind of father?
You know, they are, as I said, they are very fortunate. They have a mother like Subbalakshmi Barua, an artist. So they had proper way of life, proper
Family love.
And schooling. They completed their school. And
but you were also their guru.
Yes, but the first guru is the mother. And she prepared them that they should understand, they should learn properly. And they are, you know, they have become responsible. What I saw, before every concert, both of them will go to different room and start practicing. So this sense of responsibility is very, very important, that the day a child becomes responsible, it's a great happiness for the parents. And on my 75th birthday, my grandchildren gave me a surprise musical tribute. Ayan's two twin boys.
9 years old.
9 years old. Abir
So
and
the
Johan.
8th generation is now ready.
They played Rag Tilak Kamod. It's on the YouTube also, I think. So thanks to pandemic, I mean pandemic has done a lot of you know, damage all over the world, because children were not going to school. Ayan and Ayan's wife, my daughter-in-law Nima, they gave so much time to the children that 2-2 घंटे रियाज कर रहे हैं.
Wonderful.
और जब भी मैं सिखाता था, मैंने कहा बेटा कितना देर बजाओगे? You decide. So we have to decide. So they are into music, they are enjoying playing music. And it depends on Ayan and Nima whether they would like them to be a musician or chartered accountant or IT.
You're not insisting on it.
Because that is their responsibility.
I certainly hope that the 8th generation is going to continue the tradition. But tell me one thing, one of the amazing things, I mean, amongst the many amazing things in your career, is that you have personally devised so many rags. You have adapted some and you've completely created new ones, including, as I remember, one name for Subbalakshmi,
Yes.
Rag Subbalakshmi, and there is also a rag Atal Manjari, which I think is a tribute to our former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
Yeah, you see, these melodies come to my mind, and you know, sometimes I'm humming without realizing what I'm humming. Da 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 da. Suddenly I stopped. What am I singing? What is this? It's something new. So every time this melody comes to me and says, do you know me? Do you recognize me? I say, no. So will you accept me or should I go? So I accept and give some names. So I feel embarrassed to say I've created a raga. I discover these, I come across these beautiful melodies, and this melody I call Ganesh Kalyan.
Achha.
Because I had a request from Pune to perform for Ganesh festival.
Uh-huh.
And they wrote, say, please prepare something new for Lord Ganesha. So I gave this Ganesh Kalyan, and first performance happened in Pune of Ganesh Kalyan. So like that, Rag Subbalakshmi happened in Chennai, in Music Academy Hall. About 2,500 people sitting. Pandit Jasraj also sang. And people accepted. You know, generally a new creation, you slowly and gradually perform in a small sessions. But what I think is right, I always say, whatever I think right, I always do that. Sense of proportion is very important also. I tell Amanaya that, you know, classical musicians, they are generally blamed for excessive, you know, improvisations, 2 hours, 3 hours. If you remember, our records were only for 3 minutes, 78 RPM. And those great masters like Abdul Karim Khan Sahab, Riyaz Khan Sahab, Inayat Khan Sahab, they all became famous because of those 3
3-minute melodies. What about your playing Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram on the Sarod? How did that come up?
Yes, that because of Mahatma Gandhi, you know, on several occasions.
But you were a small toddler when he passed away.
Sabarmati Ashram, when they were, I think the world or our country was celebrating Satyagraha, 100 years of Satyagraha.
Okay.
So we were invited by Mr. Sunil Dutt. So we, at 5:30 in the morning under that tree at Sabarmati Ashram, we were playing Vaishnav Janato and Ramdhun and all those things. So on so many occasions all over the world, Aman and all three of us played these songs. And once in Paris International UNESCO, they gave me Gandhi Medal and Dr. Bala Mullikalchara also. Our Prime Minister was Mr. Narasimha Rao.
Ji.
So the delegation went with Narasimha Rao to Paris. And there I played, contributed as a tribute a new raga to Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhi Cause, as a tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. So these are my feelings. I mean, I always do naman and pay my respect and tribute to all the freedom fighters of our country, especially Mahatma Gandhi.
And you, of course, performed at the United Nations in commemoration of Gandhiji and the Day of Peace.
Yes.
Just a couple of years ago.
Yes, that happened after 52 years. You know, first musician was legendary M.S. Subbulakshmi. And after 52 years, I got the opportunity, Aman and we all performed there.
Well, you've been truly an ambassador of Indian music.
But we were missing you and UN on that day.
I missed being there. I must say I would have been so honored because as Under Secretary General, I used to be the one presiding over those concerts. It's been such a joy talking to Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Sahab, the great maestro of the Sarod, the 6th generation of his family, who has elevated this extraordinary instrument to national and international recognition. And let us all wish him many years of illustrious music playing. His own children are carrying the tradition forward as well. And as we sign off, with thanks to him for all that he's done for our culture, our music in India and for the globe. Thank you, Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Sahab.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to have met you after so long.
And to have caught up.
We are really proud of you, and you are very dear to our family and to all of us.
Thank you so much, and all the best again.
Thank you.